Miami Condo Mondays is a live podcast on the first workday of the week at 4 p.m. South Florida time. The program features former journalist and current Wall Street consultant Peter Zaleski of the Miami Condo Investing Club and former lender and veteran condo broker Jenny Huertas of CVRRealty.com. Recorded weekly in greater downtown Miami, this 1-hour discussion will provide a refreshing and sometimes controversial perspective on the state of the South Florida condo market from a pair of seasoned real estate professionals who do not always agree. The program won't tell you what to think about the South Florida condo market, but will give you something to think about before buying, selling, taking listings, or financing units. This podcast is not authorized by the Miami real estate industry and will quite possibly annoy many of its figureheads. Welcome to this week's episode of Miami Condo Mondays, broadcast live on the social media accounts of Peter Zaleski and Jenny Huertas.
Happy Monday, Miami. This is Miami Condo Mondays, a real estate podcast about what's going on in the Tri-County, South Florida region of Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. We're going to talk about condos. Today, we got a special treat for you. We're talking about Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale Beach, downtown Fort Lauderdale, Las Olas, Broward Boulevard, Sunrise, State Road 84, Marina Mile Boulevard, or at Everglades. We're going to talk about all of it. We're going to name names. We're going to tell you what's going on in the condo market. We're going to tell you some history about the Fort Lauderdale area. We're also going to compare and contrast what's going on in Fort Lauderdale, population-wise, economically, to what's going on in the city of Miami, as well as the city of West Palm Beach. I'm Peter Zaleski. I'm a condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm joined here by my partner, my co-host, no one else but Jenny Huertas. She's the broker-owner of CVR Realty. Make sure you check out her website, cvrrealty.com. What's going on, Jenny? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Peter. You sound very excited about Fort Lauderdale. This is great.
I'm very excited about Fort Lauderdale, Jenny. Jenny, we got 45 days left in the winter buying season. I'm not trying to oppress or trying to create anxiety for sellers who thought they were going to be able to get out and not have to deal with the expensive cost of condo living, whether it's rising maintenance fees, hefty special assessments, or insurance, which is sort of pulled back a little bit, but it's still much, much, much higher than where we were back in June of 2021 when that tower went down in Surfside called the Champagne South Tower, and very different time right now. So right now, Jenny, some of these sellers, they're saying it's getting pretty expensive to live in one of these condos. A lot of times it's cheaper to rent than it is to own at current valuations. And because of laws that went into effect because of the Surfside disaster, the tragedy, it's cheaper to rent than it is to own in a condo, Jenny. So I got a feeling we're going to be hearing about a lot of people looking to get out, trying to make decisions, and maybe that stiff upper lip that they've had for quite some time. Maybe it's not as strong as it used to be, although it is in Fort Lauderdale. When we give you the numbers, Jenny, you're going to be a little bit shocked to see how the Fort Lauderdale condo owners are playing it versus the rest of the state of Florida.
Very interesting. I can't wait.
Yeah. Jenny, you have a vintage condo division. Vintage, anybody doesn't know, these are condos that are at least 30 years old. Why do we call them vintage? Well, because what happened because of the Surfside disaster, the tragedy, state of Florida, or maybe the insurance industry, however you want to sort of view it, state of Florida adopted a bunch of different legislation, primarily related to transparency, trying to bring more information to the marketplace about what's going on in some of these condos. One of the things that's now required, Jenny, every 10 years, condos in Florida, remember, there's 1.2 million associations, 28,250, 1.2 million units. 28,250 associations, of which down in the Tri-County area of Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, talking 13,000 associations with 610,000 units. Jenny, all of a sudden, these associations, which for the longest time are trying to keep maintenance fees low, what they did is they deferred maintenance. They said, it's not necessary. Let's just push it. We'll push it back a little bit. We don't want to raise the maintenance too high because if we do, investors aren't going to want to come in here. Unit owners aren't going to want to stay. They're not going to be able to afford it. And you know what happened? The tower went down, the industry or the legislature adopted all kinds of rules. And now living in a condo can be quite expensive, especially in a place like Fort Lauderdale, where there's still a lot of vintage units, these units that are at least 30 years old. And why are they vintage? Because at the 30-year mark, almost like the midlife crisis, They have to go through and they have to do a in-depth study called the milestone inspection. That study, based on our best guesstimates, if your building's up to 4 stories high, you're looking at a special assessment about 25 grand. If you're between 5 and 14 stories, call it 65 grand. 15 stories or more, $100,000. And Fort Lauderdale's got a hell of a lot of those.
Yes, they do. It is very, very, discouraging for a lot of these owners that, thought that it was a great investment. And I think those associations were pushing also the envelope as far as doing the necessary, that they needed to fix throughout the years. And now it's a real problem for a lot of them.
It's a real problem, Jen. And, one of the things we're finding, and we came out with a report, it was supposed to go out yesterday, but it actually came out today, our Miami Condo Market Intelligence Report. And what we found is in Fort Lauderdale, the sellers, they know that the buyer coming in is going to be like, listen, you want me to buy your unit? You're in a buyer's market. You got a year of supply. You want me to buy your unit? You, the seller, you're going to have to cover prepay all of the special assessments. And again, if you kind of use our figures, what you're finding is that the prices got jacked up, even though sales are slowing and transaction prices are falling. But you know what the sellers are saying to us? Listen, it's gold. My kid's on the honor roll. My other kid's great at soccer. My significant other is good looking. My job is the best. I got the best car. I got this, that. Jenny, they got 45 days. If they don't find a buyer, if they don't shake a shiny object and catch somebody's attention, you don't get a buyer by effectively May 1st when the summer buying season begins, and you get the beginning of the heat. The humidity and hurricane warnings are right around the corner. If you don't get a buyer by May, chances are you're riding that damn thing out till September, after Labor Day, after August, when everybody takes their kids on vacation. Then they get back to the office. They start to get serious again. Expensive excess cost of living in one of these condos, that window, as it shrinks, now suddenly you're basically riding it out till September, and that can't necessarily be a good feeling, especially what we're dealing with today. Jenny, you don't have a car. I don't have a car. We're not necessarily dealing with the gas prices. But if you look what's going on with oil because of the U.S. and Israel attacking Iran, oil prices are way up. We saw gas prices per gallon. They were about $3 a gallon. Now they're pushing $3.75 a gallon. Where am I going with this? Affordability. Yeah, egg prices are cheaper now, but check out some of the other stuff. Jenny, you know what grocery store chains do down here? When they're going to do what's called a BOGO, buy one, get one free, they jack up the price in anticipation. Then all of a sudden you go in there for the BOGO, you're getting 2, and you're paying the same damn price you did before they raised the price. That's what they're doing with the condo associations in Fort Lauderdale. You're not seeing it in other markets, but Fort Lauderdale's distinctly different. I guess they think buyers aren't that savvy. Maybe they're looking for somebody who's a DIY buyer, doesn't know any better. But, you've seen stuff like this before because you've been doing real estate for quite some time. Prior to that, you were a financier. And it just surprised you?
Unfortunately, it does not surprise me. It is unfortunate because a lot of people, I just don't understand how the people transact in something that they know for the fact that they are going to be facing super high special assessments unless you really negotiate that into the price. Normally, I do. Normally, we do. It's a practice we do to protect the buyer, at least for a limited time frame, because normally it's 2 to 4 years where you don't expect another one. Depends on the building, of course.
Yes.
But you really need to negotiate that down. And these guys are staying, in the price, staying on the price that they don't want to discount. They're going to be forced to it. Somebody's going to do it. If 2, 3, or 4 of them in the same building does, then they knock down the whole prices. So even if you don't, somebody else will. And then it's time that you lost. It's money that you lost because you could have sell it for, I don't know, $300,000 to $50,000 more if you haven't stay, firm in that price.
Yeah. So anybody watching, we're going to get in all the numbers. Before we get into numbers, though, we're going to want to lay out kind of Fort Lauderdale. We're going to give you some idea. We're going to compare Miami to Fort Lauderdale as well as West Palm Beach. We're going to give you all the demographics. We're going to give you the economics. We're going to give you a good understanding. We'll give a little bit of history, give you a little bit of map. So on the front end, we're going to kind of, let's call it orientation. The back end, we're going to start to get into the data. Just so everybody's clear, the markets that we track are going to be Miami-Dade, which is where Miami is, Broward County, which is where Fort Lauderdale is, and Palm Beach County, which is where downtown West Palm Beach and Palm Beach Island are located. So we're gonna tell you what's going on in Fort Lauderdale. And one of the reasons we're doing Fort Lauderdale, Jenny, on April the 4th, the first Saturday of April and the last month of the winter buying season, which goes from November through April, we are doing our bus tour. We're going to basically put people on a bus. We're going to drive them around. We're going to give them a list of all the condo projects. We're going to teach them how to analyze condo projects. We're going to tell them history. We're going to make them laugh. They're going to have a great old time. So anybody interested in taking our bus tour, some of you say, well, I'm not going to walk. When you go on these walking tours, it's 4 miles. I don't want to go out there. It's too many steps. This is your opportunity. Get in the bus and take a ride with us. Now, if you're joining the bus in Miami, which is where the bus leaves, it's going to leave right across from the Casella Center, right outside of the Marina Blue, which is where our office is, 888 Biscayne. We're going to leave on Saturday, April the 4th at 10 o'clock. We'll then pick up people who want to join in Broward County. Some of our tour attendees, Jenny, they're going to be coming out of Broward County, maybe Palm Beach County. If you guys are coming, what you do is go to the Tri-Rail station off Griffin Road, just west of Interstate 95. The bus will come swinging by, probably depending on traffic, probably about 10:30 or so. We'll pick you up. We'll do our tour. We're going up to Oakland Park Boulevard, going to meander in and around and all around, and we'll drop you back off at the Tri-Rail station on Griffin Road, and then we'll proceed back to Miami. So anybody and everybody's interested in taking the tour, if anything, if you don't care what I got to say, come with for the list. We're going to give you a list of all the condo projects. We'll give you all the details. It's great research. It's great information to help you ultimately understand what's going on in the marketplace. Because, Jenny, what do we always say? You find a building that makes sense, then you focus on the unit rather than trying to herd cats and looking at this unit and that unit and this unit and that unit, going under contract, reading the condo declaration and realizing, oh, no, this one's not going to work for me, and let's start all over again. What do you say, Jen? Is that still the strategy?
Yes, that they should listen to what you have to say because that's number one.
Yeah, but if they're on the listing side, they're going to be like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Still, because there is, I mean, not to brag, but it's nobody doing what you're doing out there. It's just so unbiased. You don't work for anybody in particular other than the public. So that's with that in mind, you definitely need to go to this tour and really have a sense of what is happening in Fort Lauderdale. I'm very excited about going up there because it's always a lot of information. It's fun, and then you can see how different is Miami from Fort Lauderdale. It really is. Even if you work in Miami, having the knowledge of what is happening in other counties help you to help your clients.
It's true. And, for the longest time, maybe it's sort of getting diluted a little bit, waning. But the longest time, though, people in Dade, Miami-Dade, they didn't go to Broward. People in Broward didn't go to Miami-Dade. Palm Beach County, they could give two whatever about Broward or Miami-Dade County. So even though we're a tri-county region, distinctly different.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny, let me tell you how I see the three counties, and then you correct me where I'm wrong, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so Palm Beach County primarily is going to be those that are risk averse. They're going to tend to be older. They're going to tend to be more conservative. I'm not going to say they're the get off my lawn people that you always hear about, but that's going to tend to be Palm Beach County. Miami-Dade County is going to tend to be more international. It's going to be more of your jet setter type. It's also going to be probably more open to risk takers, gamblers, people who want to, they want to race boats and they want to scuba dive and they want to jump out a plane. You're not going to get that in Palm Beach County. You might to a little extent, but not really. Look at the clubs. Look at the bar scene. Well, I don't know if anybody drinks anymore with some of these other generations. Look at the restaurant scene. Completely different vibe. And then Broward County is going to be a blend. Broward County, which is right in the middle, it's going to be a blend. On the southern portion of Broward County, especially in places like Hollywood, Hallandale, you're going to get big Canadian population. Well, you did till President Trump pissed off the Canadians and the Quebecers, as we call them. They don't want to drive on down like they've been doing for decades. I don't know if they're coming as often. The Montreal smoked meat places. The places in Dania Beach, the Dairy Bell, where they sell the poutine, which is the Canadian French fries with the gravy and the meat and all kinds of stuff. The ice cream. I don't know if these places are being occupied anymore. You go out to Western Broward County, you know what you're going to run into, Jenny? You're going to run into one of my favorite sports ever. Cricket. Cricket. The West Indies. The West Indians. This is the British portion of the Caribbean. They're all concentrated up there. It doesn't matter if it's the Jamaicans, the Trinidadians, you name it, they're all up there. Jenny, the city of Miramar, they put up a statue outside of City Hall. Guess who it is? Was it a U.S. president? No. Was it a U.S. inventor? No. Take a guess who they put up a statue of.
No idea. Yep, Bob Marley.
Close. Usain Bolt, the world's fastest man. They put he's a Jamaican sprinter.
Yeah.
They put up a statue of him in Miramar, just to give you an idea. So Western Broward County, got a lot of West Indians. If you guys like patties, if you like roti, if you like cricket, the first and only officially approved cricket ground in the United States was in Lauderdale, which is due west, immediately west of Fort Lauderdale, just west of the swap shop off Sunrise. Just kind of give you some context.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go up to Pompano Beach, Jenny. What do you got in Pompano Beach, which is just north of Fort Lauderdale? You got the Brazilian population. You got Little Rio, Little Sao Paulo. Well, Sao Paulo's not very little. but you have the Brazilian crowd. So, we got so many different distinct areas, and Fort Lauderdale really kind of gets me excited. I like Fort Lauderdale. Jenny, I've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, typically you're a New Yorker. They're going to come down to Miami, and what I find is the New Englanders, Boston, the Red Sox, all of that, they're going to Fort Lauderdale, if you ask me. That's what I've seen over and over the years. Would you agree or disagree, or
yes.
what do you say to that?
No, most definitely. I agree. Only that I noticed that Fort Lauderdale is being more mixed than it was 30 years ago, in my opinion. You see more different ethnicities, together in Fort Lauderdale than it was years and years ago. I guess it's because the influence of South Florida, people going up in the counties. So I noticed that. But definitely I can see Boston and New York, that divider right there by the county.
And I've been told, Miami-Dade County is dominated by Cuban Americans. You know where a lot of Puerto Ricans go? They go to Broward County. Supposedly, and you look at baseball, the Puerto Rican crowd and the Cuban American crowd, and they play a little bit different types of baseball, and they tend to. So Broward County's gonna have much more of the Puerto Rican diaspora, and then in Miami-Dade County, you're gonna get more of the Cuban American diaspora. So it's just a fascinating melting pot. It's one of the reasons why I've been living in South Florida more than 30 years. Jenny, you've been down here more than 30 years. The diversity, tell me it's not a fantastic thing.
That's the reason why I live here. I need a place like this where you have the best of both worlds. You have financial, the security, you're a dreamer, you work hard, you can make it here. And the little bit of the flavor of the other countries close to you, like Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela, all these people that, we are all together here as a Hispanic community. So the Caribbean is very flavorful. So yes. I really like that about this city, moreover than other places in the States.
Well, I always say when you're looking at condos and you're looking east of Interstate 95, that's effectively a trading pit for condos. I view condos as commodities. They're no different than salty snacks, oil, orange juice, pork bellies, any of that type of stuff. So when you're east in Interstate 95, you're getting into a condo trading pit, like back in the day. Not today when you get on your phone and you're buying stocks on Robinhood app or Charles Schwab. Back in the day, you would, if you had a stock account, you were trading commodities or anything, you'd call your broker. Your broker would call the floor. Somebody would write up an order. They'd give it to a runner would take the order. They'd take it to the pit, this large trading pit. People were yelling and screaming, and they had badges on, and they were hands out selling, hands in buying. That's the way it kind of used to be, and that's the way I look at the condo market. But as I look at the cultural aspect of South Florida, you know what I think it is? I think it's like going to the mall and going to the food court. If you're a little bit cheap like I am, what you do is you wander around and you get the free samples. Give me a sample of this. They put it on a toothpick. Give me a sample of that, a sample of this, sample of that. And that's really what you get in South Florida, because depending whatever you're looking for, we kind of had it. Broward County, Jenny, South African population. If you want to get South African food, like what do they call it? Bunny chow, where they take this bread and they take a curry and they put it in like a loaf of bread. They stand it vertically, they cut out the middle, they dump it inside there. They got, what do they call them? Snags, like a South African sausage. There's all kinds of interesting diversity in the South Florida area. So really, Tri-County area is like a food court where you need to go around and sample all the different fare that these different cultures have to offer.
Definitely. I use that traveling without moving. When you go to a neighborhood or a real ethnic restaurant where the only one that is not from that country is you or few others, you feel like
exactly.
you feel like you are actually traveling. Is fantastic.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the things that's come around that's really sort of kind of meshing the three counties, because they're all distinctly different, but kind of meshing them is we have not only the Tri-Rail, which is all three counties working together with a, let's call it a government subsidized, at least for the time being. We'll see if the Florida legislature stops funding it, which is one of the fears. But you can basically jump on the Tri-Rail. It's going to run on the tracks to the west, which is the CSX tracks. And you can get from place to place to place just all around there. It runs parallel to Interstate 95. But in recent years, they brought online the private rail system, which ran on Henry Flagler from FEC, Florida East Coast. This is the guy who built the tracks all the way down to created Palm Beach Island, ultimately took it to Miami, and then eventually took the tracks down to the Florida Keys in about 1913 or so. Now they're running a private rail, Jenny, on those same tracks, which are actually east of Interstate 95. They're comparable to effectively US 1 or Dixie Highway, whatever you kind of want to refer to it as. And you can take the the Bright Line, which is what it's called, and you can get off in each city and basically bop around. You can use it if you want to commute. Where does it let you off? Well, in downtown Miami, it's letting you off over in and around Government Center, in and around the Overtown train station, Metro Rail station. It drops you off in Fort Lauderdale, drops you off in downtown Fort Lauderdale, right at Broward Boulevard and Andrews.